Hey everybody, it's Randy with Cummings and Company Realtors. And this morning or this afternoon, depending upon when you're watching this, I've got Joe Webb with Blevins Home Mortgage. Good morning,
Morning,
Joe.
afternoon.
Afternoon, evening, midnight, whatever you guys watch this, that'll be what time it is for you. So I wanted to bring Joe on here today because I probably have never met anybody with more of a breadth of lending knowledge than this guy. He'll lend
Oh,
anything
making me
from a
blush.
shiny, wooden nickel to, millions of dollars for a commercial purchase or, anything and everything in between. So, tell us a little bit, Joe, about like your history, how you got started in mortgage. How old were you when you first realized you loved money?
Well, my relationship with money was based on what I was learning in college. So that was beer economics. How much money did I need to make to party and have fun? And then I met my wife in college, and she woke me up to the world that there's more than beer. So just kidding. No, I had a college buddy of mine owned a bank in Dundalk. And the closer I got to him and his family as we became friends, and I wanted to have a job that was not retail at a Towson Town Mall. They offered me a position working in the wholesale department of their local bank. And that's where my love for the industry began. And it kind of, changed as I changed and I grew as an individual. I got a few more opportunities inside that company. And then, but that was on the wholesale side, business to business, banks selling to banks. And then somebody recruited me to do direct to consumer. They said, hey, instead of talking to other banks that are selling the loans, what do you think about trying to sell the loans to individuals? And I said, well, that's kind of interesting. Had a good pitch, picked a good company to work for, and I was there for 17 years.
And here we are today.
Yeah.
So how long have you been with Blevins?
Since December of 2023,
Okay.
although that first company that I mentioned, Chad Blevins, the owner, was actually my first manager. So there was a really neat tale there that I'll tell another time where we had our own paths. We did not separate for any reason, just the way that life was guiding us down our own roads. And then, God had a plan, put us back together. I was actually flipping a property in Havre de Grace, Maryland. He was the pre-approval lender for a house I was buying. And it was just total serendipity. And like, can I call this guy? I haven't talked to him in 15 years, but am I allowed to call him? So, I kind of broke protocol there and reached out and said hi. And it was just a big high five fest from there.
Kind of like how we met, 10 years ago and then kind of
Yeah.
reconnected in the past 12 months and
Yeah.
formed our relationship. And I was like, yeah, this guy really knows his stuff. And I like to surround myself with people who are experts in their field. That way I don't have to be an expert in that. Like, I'm like, you got questions? Call Joe. Because they're going to call me for every little thing. And I'm like, for little
Yeah.
things, yeah, I'm good. Like, how do you pay your mortgage every month? Probably by check or, debit or something like that. But like,
Yeah.
what is it? How does it break down? Da 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 da. I'm like, yeah, call Joe. So let's just jump right into. I
Great.
want to address the whole rates thing. So, what was your reaction yesterday when our good buddy, our drinking pal Joe,
Jerome Powell.
Jerome pal, lowered rates by 0.25%? Was it a non-event for you?
It was a non-event, and actually in his speech, he actually sounded very non-eventful. He said he's not sure that the quarter point swing will do a whole lot to move the housing market. That was a direct quote from him. But it was expected. The people that do this for a living, speculating about these things, are pretty typically accurate. I'm sure there's some leaking going on in there, but generally speaking, when the Federal Reserve meets, the market knows, air quotes, about 2 weeks prior, and the consumer pricing reflects that change. So we've known for about 2 weeks, again, air quotes, what was going to happen. There are surprises that happen. No one has a crystal ball, but no surprise there. I think quarter point was expected. There was a teeny tiny chance of a half a point. But if you look at the historical changes that are made, they tend to be very, very conservative because they don't want to move too much of the lever at once.
And I know he really said a couple of times, and he even answered questions and repeated himself. He goes, "This leaves us room to see how the
Yeah.
market reacts or how the economy adjusts and stuff like that." And
Yeah.
and I know, you could get paid a full-time salary off of just interpreting his thing. But I think if I was interpreting him, what I hear him saying is, we're not doing anything anymore for a while. I thought he was saying we're leaving it alone now.
I think he is in his twilight of his position. I believe May of 26, he's leaving. So I think unless the board unanimously votes the next time, I don't think we're going to see a change. But that's not anything negative. I just think that's what we're kind of seeing, and I think the consumer pricing will reflect that as well.
And I think the message that I would take away from that is, now's the time to buy. Like, this is your opportunity. Rates just dropped. Rates are probably as good as they're going to get. They go up and down every day, and you know that better than anybody. But the reality is, it's a great time to buy. There's a lot of houses sitting on the market, and rates have dipped to the lowest they've been in, I don't know, years.
Yeah, and there's a sweet spot we're in right now, because you can get some extra inventory where the sellers who are sitting on these 2.5s, or I saw 1.875 the other day, and they're just starting to tip over that fence. You can get a good deal, make a competitive offer, and win your contract bid. But most of us who owned a home or bought a home around the pandemic time, that frenzy was because the rates dropped too far too fast. So I think that's ultimately what they're trying to be careful of. Now, if you're thinking about buying, it's a great time, because their inventory is slowly starting to come. The cost of that loan and borrowing that money is reasonable. And again, I've been in the business for 20 some years. Reasonable to me is subjective. My first home was 7 1/8, and I called my father to refinance to 6 1/2, and he thought I was lying to him because he had perfect credit and he had a 7 1/2. So, that perspective, I'm not an old guy, but I've been around just long enough to see the huge waves, and I think it's a great time to buy without assuming you're going to refinance. But it's very likely in the next 18, 20 months, somebody's going to be able to get a better rate anyway. So if I'm 100% with you on that.
My first loan was in 1995, and I got to be honest with you. Here's a shocking revelation. I don't even know what the rate was. I don't even think it mattered to me at that point.
I don't think it mattered, right?
I was super young. I was buying a house. I'm like, the rate was the rate. The rate was whatever the rate was. And it was with a local bank. I had no idea. This is obviously before I was a realtor. I had no idea what I was doing. And back then, that was before we had buyer's agents. So I was working with a listing agent, and she was selling me her daughter-in-law's house. So you talk about someone who was probably getting screwed over. I don't feel like I did get screwed over, but the potential was there.
You use that phrase a lot. The rate is what it is. And I think there's something to be said about that, because if you're ready to make a move because of your life changes, as long as the affordability, that word's coming up a lot on TV right now, as long as the affordability matches your family plan, I don't know that the rate's really relative. At the same time, you want to get a good deal, and you will get a good deal, obviously working with us as a team. But with that being said, the rate shouldn't determine when you get in the market or get out. I'm not a big component of that concept.
Yep. And so today I wanted to talk about something for everybody. Like, you guys have programs that meet everybody's needs, from first-time home buyer at 22 years old to I can't afford my house anymore and I'm 70 years old, and everything in between, and every walk of life. So where do you want to start? Like, tell us about one of these programs you have, and who's the niche for that?
Well, maybe let's start with the first-time home buyer and kind of work our way up. I mean, you had a good lead in there. So, that term affordability, Randy, you and I have been using that for the last 18 months before it became a hot button on TV on a political perspective. But in terms of what we do for a living, that's the primary governing conversation. It's not eligibility. What will a software or a computer or typing tell you how much house can you afford? That matters with your budget. And that's also where the timing comes in. If you're upgrading, or, you and I just had a young lady close last week who's 23. It matters about what's affordable for you at that time. You can make changes later, obviously, but for young professionals who are young in their career, they're in a field where promotions are merit-based, and you got a college degree, you're coming out swinging. There's a couple of products that make sense for the right consumer, just like anything else. And one of those is a temporary buy down. It's a really neat product that isn't really fancy, and it involves the seller. It gets done right, but basically there are a few different ways to swing it. But the Cliff Note version is negotiating with the seller, or even the seller can offer to help buy down the interest rate the interest temporarily for a period of 1, 2, or 3 years. What that does is creates a graph of affordability introductory for the home buyer. Depository banks sometimes have introductory rates that last 3 or 6 months. This is an idea that is not novel. It's not new, but this temporary buy down allows a first-time home buyer to get in at a payment that's a little lower and having structured changes that are predetermined. It's not market-based. It's not an adjustable rate. They're fixed rates, and just gives them kind of a scale to ease into their home buying journey as their career grows.
Let me ask you, when you pre-approve someone for that, and let's say they're going, just to make numbers easy, let's say they're going from a 6% rate to a 5% rate, you're still pre-approving them based on the 6%, right?
100%. Yep. Their
You're not
ability to
trying
repay.
put someone in a bad position or
No.
something.
Yeah. And quick side note, that's where some of the drama came back in, 05 to 08, is people were being qualified on the features of some of these cool ideas and not on the actual concept itself. So, those shenanigans are over. That's not even possible to do that if you wanted to. If you wanted to be, unscrupulous, you couldn't even do that now. So we qualify at the fully amortized or indexed rate. And then if they have some cool features on a temporary period of time, it just helps them on an affordability level get in and kind of, breathe a little bit, get used to that budget with that large payment coming out, even between their paychecks, right? Most Americans get paid twice a month. It's just a very new thing, rent or mortgage, to factor that large payment into your budget.
Yep, definitely. So we've got the first-time home buyers. That's one program for them. What's the next thing you want to tell us about?
So this one's been on TV a little bit. You have heard some buzz about a potential idea that the current administration's floating for the 50-year mortgage. Let me just dispel some myths here. The 40-year mortgage came out 15 years ago, and there wasn't a whole lot of craziness about that, but it did come out, pre-2008, where there was some drama. But here's the idea. It's about a gateway for entry. These products are designed for one concept only. And if they stay to that concept, they're pretty neat. If a family desires homeownership because of all the benefits it provides compared to renting, and the gateway to entry on that monthly payment is just a little too steep in the market area, this is a cool product with a fixed rate, a known payment plan to get in slightly lower on your principal and interest payment. It's not dramatically different. It's just lower. But for many families, $50 to $150 a month is a game changer. So that these products are just designed to give a little extra push. Unlike the temporary buy down, these are fixed for the life of the loan. Now, the problem in my business is that it's not always sold like that. If it's sold as a gateway for entry where it's not a long-term solution, the amount of interest that's piled up over 40 or potentially 50 years is almost irrelevant. It's something we have to talk about, educate the consumer. But if you're only going to own a home 3 to 5 years or have that loan 3 to 5 years, the amount of interest over 30, 40, 50 years is not a huge part of the decision-making process. But it has to be sold like that.
And I can tell you from someone who spends more time in my car than I care to, the different, you're talking $100, a month, like you were saying, that's $20,000 of house. And that can be a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
20,000, just, the difference between 220 and 240 can be
a new neighborhood
enough difference. And that gets you the house that you really wanted, as opposed to the house that you settle for. And I like the way you phrased it as it's a great way. It's an entry point. It's a temporary solution. We're going to refinance you in a couple of years when you can afford it, or you're going to upgrade to another house. I mean, you don't want to just stay put where you're at with that 50-year loan in your starter house forever.
Right. I think it's the same idea. That's why the adjustable rate mortgages exist. We're just not a huge fan of that because we don't believe in, massive changes down the road. But when the adjustable rate first came out, it wasn't meant to try to, get one over on people. It was a gateway for entry. The adjustable rate was lower than the fixed rate. So it was simply a gateway for entry, and it was meant to be a temporary solution. But again, they weren't sold like that. They were sold as, the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they weren't properly trained on the consumer. And when things started to change, it got a little scary. So the 40-year mortgage, I don't use a lot of them in the marketplace, but it's been there the whole time. It never went away. So when the 50-year mortgage came out, I was like, okay, I'm kind of indifferent to it, but it's for the right family. Who am I to tell you shouldn't get into a a 50-year mortgage if that $200 payment gets you into your dream house? I'm not going to tell somebody that.
If I had a banner right now, it would help. I would hold it up and it would say, still better than renting every day.
Amen.
No,
Amen.
I
Still
mean,
better than
yes,
renting.
you can make a case, that you're paying so much interest and stuff like that, but rent is 100% interest. So don't let that stop you.
Yeah,
And
I agree
so
100%.
obviously we're touching on all these things. You guys got to call Joe if you want more details of how this applies to you, because everybody's situation is different. But let's keep it moving. Let's move on to
Okay.
your next thing. What's the next thing you wanted to talk about?
So I would say the next part is folks that have decided to enter the backbone of America in a small business. This country runs on the small business and the ability for communities to thrive off new products, new services. If you decide to do that and you're a business owner, you left the W-2 world. You're self-employed. The world is your oyster, but your finances you have to be very careful with. So most really good accountants can show the tax code to a business owner and say, hey, here's the way you can manage your business and be compliant with the taxes. But when we see those tax returns, 99 times out of 100, your accountant has showed you strategies within the tax code so that your adjustable gross income doesn't reflect your lifestyle or your living expenses. So people get discouraged because they can't afford the house or mortgage that reflects their actual income and lifestyle. As a result of that,
more specifically, they're being told that they can't afford it.
They're being told, and people get discouraged sometime, and they don't realize that there's a whole nother world of products out there that doesn't use your tax returns. And it's called a bank statement loan. It's such a wonderful thing to take a look at your business as a total. It's 12 months or 24 months of business bank statements. It's a lot of paperwork, but it's better than your tax return. So if your business has cash flow of $5,000 to $7,000 in a month, depending on what type of industry, we can use a percentage of that cash flow and revenue to determine your income. It's never 100%, but there's a number based on categories of business and traditional overhead. And then that becomes the qualifying number you can use on a pre-approval. And that number is dramatically different in every case than what your tax return figure is, unless you don't have a good accountant.
Who's the best candidate for this? Do you need to have that business for 1 year, 2 years? Like, what's that look like as far as
That's a great question. That's a great question. The more stable the business, as in time, the better your pricing is. But there are pricing models at 1 year, but it is 12 months straight up. You have to have 12 months of bank statements. So that probably means about 13 months of business. And if you are brand new in that business, you need to have some sort of career that mimic that. For example, an electrician would work for an electric company for 3 or 4 years, then go out on his own and have 1 year of being a self-employed electrician. There's some stability there. If you have a really cool idea for a side hobby and you make lots of money and all of a sudden you want to buy a house on that, you got to have 2 years for that project. So I would say 2 years unless you became self-employed in the industry that you were in prior.
And I was going to throw in here again, for those of you guys that are listening to this, the solution to this is call early. I can't stress that enough. Like, you don't want to wait until you see, it makes me laugh because so many people do this. You see the house of your dreams and you call Joe and be like, hey, can we make this happen? You're like, yeah, we can make this happen. If you would have called me 6 months ago and we would have done some planning.
Yeah. And I will tell you that a W-2 employee who gets 2, 3, 4 pay stubs a month, been at their job for 2 or 3 years, that person can get a pre-approval in a very quick amount of time, depending on their ability to, provide documents and credit. But these bank statement loans, it takes time, but it's a wonderful way to have a set of confidence going into the market. But it takes about a week for me to get an underwriting response on your qualifying income. So that's not a quick thing. But yeah, I would always agree. The sooner you have an idea to enter the marketplace and you share it with our team, the better.
So let's take it one step forward from there. So you've got the people that have broken out on their own and they're doing this. What about the people that are looking to do investments in real estate itself? What do you got for that?
This is a pretty exciting thing, and it's called the DSCR loan, and I'll explain that in a second.
What does that stand for?
Debt service coverage ratio.
I didn't actually.
The reason this is important is this has been around for a while, okay? But it's been through what's called hard money. Now, hard money has a very negative connotation. It really isn't. It just means it's not backed by the government GSEs. Okay. So there's a whole lending community that deals with investors. They've been doing this DSCR concept for 15, 20 years. In the last 3 or 4 years, what's great is banks like brokers like myself, and then banks that we use have begun to do this with your average single or double investor company. There's 2 huge things about this. Debt service coverage ratio is very simple. It means all of the monthly expenses of owning that property compared to the rent that you would be collecting, the rent schedule. There's a ratio there. 1.00 would mean it's the exact number, $2,000 in, $2,000 out. The higher that number, the better the pricing is. But here's the cool thing. You do not show income as an individual. The property provides the stability and collateral for the lender, not you as an individual. You have to have good credit to be able to manage things, but you're not providing any income documents, no tax returns. You're using the property to make that decision. It can be a purchase or a refi. Again, not a new thing. It's been around for a while, but it's been hard money where 10, 12, 14% rates. Now you're getting conforming market-based rates, which is a huge boost to the family that upgraded to a new home, maybe kept their other one, or you're slowly getting in the investment world. Here's the second thing. You don't have to have it as an individual. You can use your LLC. That's massive for liability purposes.
Sounds great. Yeah. So if you're looking to do an investment, if you're looking to do a buy, this is for a buy and hold for renting, right? It doesn't
buy and hold, not
right.
a flip. Correct.
Right. So if you're looking to do the buy and hold, you can get in and you can get started. You do have to have 20% down, right?
Yes. 25 is actually where the pricing gets really good, but yes, 20% down.
So if you've been saving your money and you're looking to do a great investment, because these houses are still, going up 5-10% a year, some of them, stuff like that. So
yeah,
a great way to leverage your money. I've got a lot of nurses that are doing this. I got 3 sisters that are doing this right now. They're all nurses.
Oh, wow.
They're buying a house every year, and then we run them out for them.
They're building wealth. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I love that. Me, and probably by the time they get to be retirement age, they're going to have 10, 12 houses apiece. And then I'm like, you just sell one off each year during retirement.
What a wonderful way to build wealth. That's fantastic.
Yep. And so what about when you're near the end of your life? You're just one foot in the grave.
Every great book has a couple final chapters, right?
I don't want to dramatize it.
When you become 62, you are eligible for a very interesting type of mortgage that is very polarizing. It's either hands up in the air, this is amazing, or it's a vampire and a cross goes up. And that's the reverse mortgage. I have a lot of experience with this product. Again, repetitive nature here. If it's sold properly and the family knows what's going on, how it works, it's not scary, not mystical. It's a really great product to consider in your financial plan and retirement. You don't have to have a mortgage, but if you have a mortgage, depending on the math, the reverse can take care of this. This is a cash flow based conversation. Fixed income is generally the dominating financial factor in a retiree's life. You work your whole retirement to save, to change that fixed income number. You try to pay down your expenses. When you cross over to your retirement, sometimes things are the way you want them to be, and sometimes they're not. People are living longer now. When they were planning for their retirement in the 60s and 70s, we didn't plan on living to 80, 90. That's just a reality. Financial planners back then were talking about 50 to 60 as end all be all, and the math to help them save had to be there. Combined with inflation, the cost of living, even if you did save good money, sometimes the math's not there now. So it's a really great idea to turn your property into a cash flow positive. I come from the Kiyosaki belief, Robert Kiyosaki, that your home is a way to build worth, but it's not a pure asset because it's a cost to you. There are costs. So as a homeowner with a fixed income, if we can change those costs, put the cash flow back in your favor, it's a really interesting conversation to have.
And, we've had conversations about this before, obviously. Pros, cons, devil, angel, all that fun stuff. And, I feel like this is a perfect fit for the person who has to make a decision as to how they're going to spend their money. I've got this much money. I've got this much bills. What am I going to do? Like, how am I going to get these covered? Because I'm coming up short. I've seen some people do this and they're taking vacations on it. Yeah. God bless. Like, do whatever you want with it. But we've also seen people that are buying food and medicine with it
Yeah.
because it's an absolute necessity. So if you're in that position, you're a senior, you're coming up short every month, let's look at your biggest asset that you have as a potential income source as well.
One of the greatest shifts, I don't want to fanboy on the reverse, but for the right situation, it's such a wonderful idea. The largest growing population of seniors who are choosing to get into the reverse mortgage are seniors that have no balance on the property, and they are leveraging the line of credit option with starting to cash into their retirement because they have to start taking at 72, 74. They have to take money out of retirement, and there's tax implications there. There's a diminishing return with some of the tax implications. So they're using the equity in their property to offset the need for their lifestyle and not have to pull as much. So it's a really interesting and fascinating conversation to have. But as I've always said, it has to be told to the consumer very carefully. It shouldn't be sold. It is a menu option in front of you. And on the merits of that product, does it help your family or not? It shouldn't be greatest things in sliced bread or, like anything else, like a 40-year mortgage or anything else.
I think that fits in with your whole model anyway of being consultative and like, let's sit down and see what works for you. We're not going to have preconceived notions about what plan. Oh, I got a plan for you. Like, what is it? What do you want? And we kind of do the same thing. Like, we sit down, what do you want? What are you looking for? What are your long-term goals? That's why I really appreciate you, Joe. So my hat's off to you.
Thank you.
So when people want to get in touch with you, what are the best ways? Like, where are you located? What's your phone number? Give us all that information, and I'll put it all in the comments and stuff as well.
So I was born in Baltimore, kind of moved north up York Road in Baltimore County. And then as I got older, started buying. I bought in Hartford County, and I haven't moved away from it since. I live in Bel Air. Office is in Darlington. Our website, www.blevins.homemortgage.com, will tell you most of what you need to know about us. We have a lot of wonderful Google reviews between the company, my partner Chad, and his wife Becky, and myself. But my cell phone, 410-913-8471. It's attached to my hip. And that's because when you need me, I want to be there. And as long as we can communicate about my lifestyle with my children, and I'm very transparent with my customers about my schedule, I'll always answer the phone call. And you laugh sometimes because I answer pretty quick sometimes.
And I hear the kids in the background. I'm like, hey, kids, how you doing?
Yeah.
It's all good. I mean, we got to live life, and you're doing this for your family. You're not doing this, to take over the world or anything like this. So I get it.
Yeah. And my family knows if I'm answering that call, it's because I'm trying to help another family, and they're great about that. So, I'm the guy that'll answer it on Saturday morning or Saturday night, depending on, knowing you're going to be calling. So that's important, I think.
50-yard line.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Good layup. Thanks, Randy.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Joe. I appreciate you.
Welcome.
And we will see everybody soon. And if you need him, give him a call. He's right here, right next to me. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Randy. Appreciate you guys. Happy holidays.